To please his mistress, my father secretly swapped the daughters of my mother and his mistress. He let the mistress's daughter take my place as the legitimate young miss, raised with all the luxury in the world. That mistress mocked my mother behind her back. A country bumpkin, spending her whole life just making wedding clothes for someone else. Even my father thought my mother was stupid and easy to fool. But my mother just never had formal education. It is not like she had no brains. What they didn't know was that on the day my mother gave birth, a fire broke out in the back courtyard, and I was immediately swapped back. Before my father died, he couldn't figure out, no matter what, how he ended up ruined by my mother, this country bumpkin. The day the betrothal gifts from the yawning Marquis Manor arrived, a crazy girl suddenly ran up to the Song Manor's gate. She grabbed the steward's sleeve and shouted, "I am the legitimate young miss of the Song family. I was taken by mistake back then. Hurry and take me to see your madam." "Are you insane?" The steward directly shook her off. "You think our madam is someone just anyone can see." That girl nearly fell over. After she steadied herself, she stared at the boxes of betrothal gifts being carried into the Song Manor, murmuring in a daze, "I am the one who is Miss Song. The one marrying into the Marquis Manor should be me." After she said that, she saw me getting off the carriage, with the Song Manor's servants all bowing to me. She froze for a moment, then rushed straight to me, roaring like a madwoman. "I am the legitimate daughter of the Song family all these years. You've been taking my place. I want to see the lady of the house. She is my birth mother. She will definitely recognize me." Before she could finish speaking, she was dragged away by the steward and several servants. Everyone said she had gone mad, spouting nothing but crazy talk. However, what she said before being dragged away kept lingering in my mind, impossible to shake off. She screamed at me, "Have you never wondered why your father dotes on you so much? It is because you were born to the woman he loves." Everyone in the household knew that father kept a pampered mistress outside. So all these years, though, father and mother appeared harmonious on the surface, they had long since grown apart. After mother gave birth to me, the bleeding wouldn't stop, and the two never shared a bed again. Father was cold toward mother, and even toward my brother, who resembled her in features. All these years he had always ignored my brother, his eldest son. Yet he doted on me alone. Not only did he send all the good things in the household to my courtyard, but he also spent a fortune hiring tutors to teach me. By the time of my coming-of-age ceremony, I was already a renowned, talented lady in the capital. He put all his effort into cultivating me, telling everyone he met about his daughter of both beauty and talent. Later, the Marchioness of Yongning took a liking to me at a palace banquet, and asked His Majesty to arrange my marriage to the legitimate eldest son of the Marquise's household. Shi Zivirion said I was blessed with good fortune. Father was merely a fifth-rank official, so this marriage was the Song family marrying above their station. Father's treatment of me and my brother was worlds apart, which always struck me as strange. After that girl was dragged away today, I had my personal maid Xiaohong follow her all the way, and saw her enter that courtyard in the west of the city. I knew that exquisite little courtyard was where father kept his mistress. Xiaohong slipped some silver coins and got information about that girl's identity from the gatekeeper boy. The boy said that girl was called Lu Xianger, the daughter of Madame Liu in the courtyard. However, Lu Xianger had been mistreated by Madame Liu since childhood. When the master wasn't around, her life was even worse than the servants before Xiaohong left. She happened to see Madame Liu returning. Xiaohong said that Madame Liu was indeed beautiful, especially the mole beneath her eye that made her look particularly alluring. Hearing this, I suddenly recalled that the other day at the fabric shop, I met a beautiful woman who warmly helped me pick fabrics for making clothes. She said her daughter was the same age as me, and looked at me with such tender affection. I remembered that woman also had a mole beneath her eye. Could she be the mistress father kept outside the manor? So I really was born to that mistress. Mother loved me so dearly, yet she was raising her enemy's child all along. Me heart sank suddenly, my whole body trembling uncontrollably, and the teacup in my hand fell and shattered on the ground. I collapsed on the bed, sobbing uncontrollably. Mother rushed to my courtyard as soon as she returned to the manor from praying for blessings on the mountain. She sat on the edge of the bed, gently patting my back, and asked softly, "Who made our little Yunqian angry? Tell Mother, and Mother will get back at them for you." I cried so hard I could barely catch my breath, sobbing and unable to get out a single complete sentence. Mother tenderly wiped the tears from my cheeks with a silk handkerchief. Just then, my brother's voice came from outside the room. "Song Yunqian, I just came back from the horse market and bought those flaky pastries you love." Before my brother could finish, he saw Mother walk out of my room, frowning as she asked him, "Did you steal your sister's things again?" Seeing something was wrong, my brother hastily put the pastries in his hands on the ground and ran toward the courtyard gate. As he ran, he turned back and said, "I didn't steal her stuff, that was ages ago." Mother let out a cold scoff. "If you didn't do anything wrong, then why are you running?" I wiped my tears and called Mother back into the room. "Mother, it is not brother's fault. It is your daughter. Your daughter doesn't want to marry into the Yongning Marquis manor anymore." Mother's expression turned to concern. "Why is that?" "I've looked into it that Shizi has excellent looks and character. He is a rare, fine gentleman." I shook my head. "Your daughter won't marry anyone. I want to go to Miaoyan nunnery to practice Buddhism, chanting sutras and praying for Mother and brother day and night. I only wish for Mother to be at peace." "You child, what has gotten into you? Why on earth do you suddenly want to become a nun?" Mother said, then looked at Xiaohong beside her, whose expression was evasive, and asked, "You've been with Miss all day. Do you know what happened to her?" Xiaohong's face turned pale, and she panicked and knelt on the ground. Miss found out about her origins, so I also immediately knelt before Mother, saying word by word, "Today a girl said in front of the Song residence that she is Mother's real daughter. She is the daughter of Father's mistress, and for some reason we were swapped back then. Father and Madame Liu must both know about this. They deliberately schemed to frame Mother. Mother, your daughter will go to the nunnery to become a nun. I won't occupy the position of the Song family's eldest legitimate daughter anymore, and I will never hurt Mother alongside them." Mother was stunned for a moment, staring at my reddened eyes for quite a while. "That is all? That is what made you cry your heart out?" After learning the truth, Mother wasn't angry at all, and even laughed. "At least this old lady didn't love you for nothing." My expression remained calm as I sniffled. "Mother, finding out I am not your biological daughter, doesn't that upset you?" Mother raised her hand and wiped the tears from the corner of my eye, smiling calmly. "Silly child, after they swapped you away back then, Mother immediately swapped you back. Although you don't look like me the way your brother does, I know you are my daughter. Good thing you don't look like me, otherwise it'd be hard to find you a good husband." I froze, swapped back. Nothing has changed. I am still Mother's biological daughter. Seeing me standing there dazed and silent, Mother stood up and took a copper hairpin from Xiaohong's head. She pulled my hand over, and I flinched. "No need for a blood test. Whatever Mother says, your daughter believes." Mother smiled, pressing the head of the copper hairpin against the back of my hand. After a moment, she gripped the hairpin tightly and her own palm-red rashes quickly appeared on the back of my hand. Mother opened her palm to show me the same red rashes had appeared on her palm, too. I get red rashes whenever I touch jewelry that isn't gold or silver. The villagers used to laugh at me back then, just a lotus root digger, yet I had such a delicate condition. "You've been pampered since childhood, and all your jewelry has been made of gold and silver, so you never discovered that you inherited my condition. Back then, Lu Yuyao couldn't get through the doors of the Song residence, so she had your father swap you with her daughter, letting her daughter take your place as the legitimate young miss of the Song family. Your father is truly so cruel to please her. He did such a vicious thing, ruining your whole life." After Father passed the imperial examination, Mother followed him from the countryside to this capital, where even the dust carries 3 parts nobility. Everyone said she was just from the countryside, only able to live by depending on her father. But today, for the first time, I glimpsed hatred in her eyes. My mother was originally a lotus root digger from Yangzhou. She supported my father through the imperial exams by digging lotus roots in the ponds. After my father became an official, he said he would take her to the capital for a good life. The capital was rich and prosperous, and it quickly dazzled my father's eyes, and my mother, his humble wife, could no longer catch his eye. From years of labor, my mother's skin was tanned dark, far from as pretty as the women in the capital. Her hands from digging lotus roots in winter were covered with cuts and chilblains, crisscrossed with scars, rough beyond measure. Me father watched her busying about the manor, his eyes full of disgust. I brought you to the capital to be the lady of the house. Before coming to the capital, my father had said this too, but back then he genuinely wanted to bring mother to the capital to enjoy life. But now when he said this, there was a second half to the sentence. He brought mother to the capital to be the lady of the house, not to be a servant. Even the few servants the Song Manor had just bought looked more like masters than mother did. Mother said nothing, lowering her eyes, hiding the disappointment within them. She began learning how to be a proper lady of the house. She studied alongside my brother, learning to read and write, learning how to be refined and proper. The clothes and jewelry her father had given her before, she had always been reluctant to wear. Now she began digging out all those precious things, learning to dress herself up like the women in the capital. Gradually she looked less and less like a country village woman, but her father's eyes had long since stopped seeing her. He had met Liu Yao, the concubine-born daughter of the vice minister of war's family, at a banquet. At the tender age of 15, her beauty was in full bloom. Originally, a concubine-born daughter like Liu Yao, bullied by the main wife, could only be sent off to become a concubine in some prestigious household, paving the way for her family. But she was unwilling to be a concubine, living at the mercy of a main wife like she had in the Liu household. So she set her sights on her father. Her father was a Jinchi scholar, his official career going smoothly, and at home there was only an embarrassing wife of humble origins, nothing that could compare to a young lady like herself, born and raised in the capital. Making her father divorce his wife and remarry would be as easy as turning over one's hand. Her father was bewitched by Liu Yao, and more than once wanted to send her mother and brother back to their hometown in Yangzhou. They had been in the capital for only half a year, and her father had already changed his heart so quickly. Her father was no longer her mother's pillar of support. A single word from him could cut off her means of survival. The father, who used to feel sorry for her mother's sacrifices, who said he would pass the imperial exams and give her a good life. Now he looked at her with nothing but disgust in his eyes. Her mother didn't dare cry at home because those few servants in the household would laugh at her. She went to the lakeside, gazing at the lotus flowers blooming amid the expanse of green in the lake. She missed home, but didn't want to go back. She sat by the shore, gazing at a pleasure boat with golden windows and jade railings moored in the lake. She had never seen such a beautiful boat before, staring at it in a daze, but she soon noticed something was wrong. The boat was pitching noticeably, unlike ordinary rocking. Mother had lived by the lake for most of her life, and quickly realized that dangerous undercurrents lurked beneath the seemingly calm surface. She shouted loudly from the shore, but the people on the boat couldn't hear her. The pleasure boat was nearly capsized by the waves, and a woman instantly fell off the boat. She was swept into the surging undercurrent, and none of the people on the boat could grab her. Mother didn't think twice, jumped into the lake, and swam toward the woman who had fallen in. Fortunately, Mother had grown up by the lake since childhood, and was an excellent swimmer. She struggled with all her might to rescue the woman to shore. Afterwards, my mother returned home looking like a mess. When my father saw Mother in her still wet clothes, he smashed a teacup hard at her feet and said in a fury, "Do you think you are still in the countryside of Yangzhou? Dressed like that, and you dare walk on the street. Where does that leave my dignity?" He was too angry to hear what Mother had said when she came home about jumping into the lake to save someone. Mother said it again. "Even if you are saving someone, you should know to mind your dignity." My father flicked his sleeves, his tone softening considerably. "Forget it. You wouldn't understand these things even if I explained. You shouldn't stay in this capital anymore. Go back." My mother lowered her eyes indifferently, no longer unable to hold back tears like before. Her tears had already been shed completely by the lake. She simply looked up and asked my father softly, "I can go back, but there aren't any good tutors back home. Can Huayr stay in the capital to study?" A flash of reluctance passed through my father's eyes, but it was only for that brief moment. He had promised Lu Yao to send both mother and son back to their hometown in Yangzhou. "You've looked at Huayr's schoolwork. He is not cut out for studying. I don't have time to look after him, so take him with you." After saying these harsh words, my father pretended to offer comfort. "I am still just a minor official now. Once I've established myself in the capital, I'll bring you and our son back. By then Huayr will be older, and I'll arrange a good marriage for him here in the capital." My mother simply hadn't had any schooling, but she wasn't stupid. When my father complained that her intimate undergarments felt too rough, my mother knew he had another woman outside. My mother knew that woman certainly wasn't someone who drew my father's disdain, like she did, living 100 times more refined than her. Actually, my mother didn't have to live so hard originally. She used to love dressing up too, but all the money she worked hard to earn was used to support father's education. Father once said that when he became an official, he would buy her the prettiest clothes and give her a good life. But father had long forgotten all those promises he once made to mother. Now he only hoped that mother wouldn't stand in the way of him living a good life. A draft blew through the hall, and mother shivered, hugging her arms, looking at my father with reddened eyes. "I am too vulgar and have embarrassed my husband. Tomorrow I'll pack up and take Huayr back to our hometown. Actually, I am just a village woman from the countryside, never worthy of my husband. Now that husband has given me a life where I can eat and drink my fill, what more could I be unsatisfied with? I won't come to the capital again. I won't hinder husband's future. Husband, don't forget what you said today, and come for Huayr later." My father gave a response, a trace of reluctance flashing in his expression. He watched mother's thin and weathered figure returning to the room. After so many years together, he couldn't help but feel some tenderness. But the words mother said weren't meant for him to hear and soften his heart. The woman mother saved today was the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's residence. Meng Jinsi mother was afraid of being scolded by father, so she rushed home without even changing out of her wet clothes. Miss Meng quickly had the nanny by her side follow behind her to escort her. What mother just said was meant for that granny at the door to hear. Mother couldn't forget how Meng Jinsi, after waking up and learning she was the wife of a capital official, looked at her chapped hands with eyes full of pity. The gratitude and pity of this legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's residence was mother's last chance at survival. The next day, before mother could even step out, the thank you gifts from the Prime Minister's residence were already delivered to the door. Madame Meng came personally, saying she wanted to thank mother for saving her daughter's life. 2 heavy chests of gold, silver, and jewels were carried into the courtyard, the golden gleam inside bright enough to blind. Mother had never seen such a display before, and waved her hands, not daring to accept. Madame Meng held mother's hand and said, "You saved the daughter I gave birth to when I was nearly 40. You might as well have saved my life too. These things are nothing." Madame Meng issued an invitation on the spot, saying that once Miss Meng recovered next month, she would invite the Song family to gather at the Prime Minister's residence. But mother shook her head. "I am about to take my son back to Yangzhou. I am afraid." Before she could finish, she was interrupted by father. "Then go back after next month. Are you really thinking of refusing an invitation from the Prime Minister's residence?" My father's voice was low, but carried a tone of reproach. Mother looked innocent. "Husband, did I say something wrong again?" This scene, in Madame Meng's eyes, only made her feel mother was incredibly pitiful. She pitied mother for her humble origins, for working hard to support her husband through the imperial examinations, only to end up making wedding clothes for someone else. Father looked down on mother for being embarrassing and never took her out. Mother, this wife from humble beginnings, was destined to be cast aside. Madame Meng called mother over to inventory the thank you gifts and whispered in her ear, "These pieces of jewelry would all look good on you. When you have time, you should dress yourself up more." My husband says I can't even tell fabrics apart. My mother said indifferently, "Such fine things should be saved for our daughter and future daughter-in-law." Madame Mung asked Mother, "Do you know how to embroider?" Mother shook her head. "I used to make a living digging lotus roots from ponds. My hands were always injured, so I couldn't do such delicate work." Madame Mung immediately understood the exquisitely embroidered sachet at Father's waist was not made by Mother. Madame Mung took a deep breath and said to Mother, "Come to the Prime Minister's residence tomorrow. I'll teach you how to recognize fabrics and how to dress up." Mother looked somewhat hesitant. "But no matter how I dress up, my husband says I can't hide my rustic air." Madame Mung patted the back of Mother's hand. "I am not teaching you to please your husband. You need to learn to be like the ladies in the capital so you can stay in the capital and secure a good future for your children." What Madame Mung said was also what Mother had in mind. From then on, Mother often went to the Prime Minister's residence, learning from Madame Mung how to be a proper head wife. Madame Mung often praised her for learning quickly. Mother was very smart. She just didn't have the opportunity to study like Father did. Father originally wanted to use Mother's connections to climb up to the Prime Minister, but unexpectedly it was Mother who grew closer and closer to the Prime Minister's residence. Mother's originally rough face was nourished by fragrant balms until it became delicate, and her attire was no different from the noble ladies of the capital. She began accompanying Madame Mung to various banquets to show her face. With Madame Mung present, no one dared to mock Mother's rural origins, and instead they all praised her for being capable, having supported Father in obtaining his official position. Soon all the nobles in the capital knew that Father had this devoted wife behind him. Only then did Father realize that if he sent Mother back to their old home in Yangzhou, he would bear the sin of abandoning his devoted wife. It was precisely at this time that Lu Yuyao became pregnant. For the sake of his future, Father persuaded her to enter the household as a concubine. Lu Yuyao watched her belly grow bigger day by day and could only nod in agreement. At this moment, Mother came before Madame Mung holding a box of poisoned lip balm, her whole body trembling as she said, "Madam, I just agreed to let that pregnant Lu woman enter the household, and she immediately had someone send me this box of poisoned lip balm. The doctor who tested for poison said that if I used this lip balm, I would die from poisoning within 2 months, and then my husband could rightfully elevate Liu to the position of official wife." This was the first time in Mother's entire life that she told a lie. Because at that time she discovered she was also 2 months pregnant, and that was before she found out about Father's affair with Lu Yao. She couldn't put her son and the child in her belly in danger, so Mother absolutely couldn't let Lu Yao enter the Song family's door no matter what. Not long after Mother left the Prime Minister's residence, rumors spread throughout the capital that the concubine-born daughter of Vice Minister Liu from the Ministry of War was pregnant, and had become someone's mistress outside before even getting married. Lu Yuyao was after all considered a proper young lady from a noble family, but she was kicked out of the Liu residence for shamelessly climbing into bed and becoming a mistress. This incident became the talk of the town among the capital's women for a while. At this time, my father had just become a disciple under the Prime Minister, rising rapidly and enjoying a smooth career path for the sake of his reputation and future. My father didn't dare to take Lu Yuyao in as a concubine and could only set up a courtyard for her outside the residence. Following what Madame Mung taught her, Mother slipped her own people in when my father was purchasing servants for Lu Yuyao. When Lu Yuyao learned that Mother was also pregnant, she smashed her newly bought porcelain vase in anger. Why should the child born to that low-born woman be considered the legitimate heir, while my child can only be an illegitimate child? She really is lucky, a peasant's daughter managing to climb up to the Prime Minister's residence. I'd like to see if someone as stupid and unrefined as her can keep being so lucky. At night, when my father went to visit her courtyard, she cried and begged him to swap her child with Mother's. "You promised to marry me as your legal wife, but now the position of the main wife is taken by that village woman. I believed your words back then and gave you my virginity, only to end up like this. You've already betrayed me. You absolutely cannot let our child be an illegitimate child. He should rightfully be the legitimate heir. A beauty in tears is the most heart-wrenching sight. After an official's daughter got together with my father, her reputation was ruined. For the sake of my father's career, she couldn't even be a concubine and could only be a secret mistress kept outside. My father looked at Liu Yao, his eyes practically overflowing with affection and pity. He nodded. Liu Yao leaned against his chest, tears glistening in her eyes as she said, "I am not a heartless person either. I will treat her child well and raise them properly." To make up for the guilt he felt toward Liu Yao, my father was willing to pay any price. Even if that price was my mother who had shown him kindness and me, still in my mother's womb. So it turns out, before I was even born, I had already lost my father. Madame Liu and I gave birth on the same day. She delivered a daughter at dawn, and I gave birth to you at night. Your father bribed the midwife to swap Liu's daughter with you. But that day, someone knocked over a candle in the side room, and a fire broke out in the back courtyard. I had Lan Shu swap you back during the chaos. Mother stroked my hair and continued. When you were born, I pinched a fingerprint onto your arm. During that time, I was always afraid you'd be swapped away, so I kept touching your little hand with bronze utensils. Your father even thought you had a rash. Father had always prided himself on being a righteous gentleman. Who would have thought that, for the sake of that mistress, he would do such a vicious thing to Mother? I lay on Mother's lap, looking up at her with reddened eyes. I wanted to say something to Mother, but I couldn't bring myself to speak. Mother pinched my cheek and smiled at me. Just because your father's heart has changed, should I stop living? I still have you, still have your brother. As for your father, he is nothing but a stepping stone beneath our feet. Brother once said that when Mother first became pregnant with me, she used to cry all the time. But later, my father entered the Central Secretariat through the Prime Minister's recommendation and established a firm footing in the capital. The Song family's residence grew larger and larger, and Mother no longer had time to cry. She learned many things from Madame Meng and began managing the Song residence in perfect order. At time, the new emperor ascended the throne, and the prime minister's legitimate daughter, Meng Jinsi, was made Empress Evrione in the capital, knew that Mother had once saved the life of the Empress, and no one looked down on her humble countryside origins anymore. She quickly became a distinguished guest at all the major banquets in the capital. The story of her digging lotus roots from the pond to support Father through his imperial examinations even reached His Majesty's ears, and even His Majesty said Father had married a virtuous wife. Facing Mother, his wife, who had shared his hardships, Father no longer dared to be as overbearing as before. After all, his career prospects depended on Mother's connections with the Prime Minister's household. He had originally looked down on Mother, but now he had no choice but to respect her. Years of forbearance had made Father increasingly resentful of Mother, and what kept him enduring was the fact that he had swapped Mother's daughter with that of the Liu family back then. In his eyes, Mother wouldn't stay smug for long. That night, when Father returned from his social engagements, he heard the steward mention the scene Liu Xianger had caused at the Song residence gate that day. He rarely came to Mother's room. Mother was at the writing desk looking through the account books. I had fallen asleep lying on the couch, with Lan Shu standing beside me, fanning. Father asked, "What is wrong with Yun Qian?" Mother lowered her eyes and said indifferently, "She cried herself tired and fell asleep here. She is about to get married, yet still acts like such a child." Father probed. Why was she crying? Did she hear that girl's crazy talk today? When I returned to the mansion, I heard that the girl claimed to be my husband's daughter. Could it be that my husband really has an illegitimate daughter outside? Mother set down the brush in her hand, suddenly realizing, "I almost forgot that Lady Liu seemed to have given birth to a daughter for you, who appears to be about the same age as Yun Qian." Upon hearing this, Father's breathing became rapid, and he hurriedly changed the subject. "That Lady Liu has recently become pregnant. The child is mine. She has been living alone outside and having a hard time. I want to bring her into the mansion to settle her." Mother was stunned for a moment, then smiled at Father. "This is wonderful news. I just wonder if becoming a concubine would be beneath her." When Mother said this, there was not the slightest displeasure in her expression. nor could any scheming or calculation be detected. Father sat beside mother and sighed. The rumors from back then have finally died down. She has indeed been treated unfairly all these years. As he spoke, he held mother's hand and said with a sincere expression, "However, after she enters the household, she can only be a concubine. You will forever be the lady of this Song Manor." Hearing this, I really couldn't help but open my eyes. Just as I was about to speak up for mother, I was stopped by her gaze. Mother said gently, "Don't worry, husband, I will treat her well." After father left, I immediately sat up from the couch. "Mother, why did you agree to let that Lady Liu into the household?" Mother walked over and sat down by the couch, smiling as she said, "How many lords in this capital don't have concubines in their mansions? If I were to block concubines from entering, that would make me a jealous woman. But that Lady Liu and father schemed against mother like this. But they didn't succeed in scheming against me either." Mother's gaze turned cold, her expression no longer as gentle as before. "After you are married off, it'll be time to clean house in this Song Manor." Mother said Lu Yu Yao would only enter the household after my wedding. Father was also hoping that once I married into the Yongning Marquis Manor and everything was settled, so he agreed. The Song Manor now was like the calm before a storm. Mother managed the inner household, carefully preparing my dowry. On the 15th of every month, without fail, she would go to the temple on the mountain to chant sutras and pray for the deceased Lady Meng. Lady Meng was always grateful to Mother for saving her daughter's life when she was alive, but wasn't Mother's turning point back then. Also what gave her a way to survive. Mother said Lady Meng was her true savior. Lu Xianger found out that Mother went up the mountain every 15th, so she waited for her there. Mother had just come out of the temple when Lu Xianger grabbed her sleeve. Lu Xianger cried as she told Mother about what she had overheard from Lu Yu Yao, how father had swapped the children back then. Mother looked at the purple bruises under her sleeves and thought of what Lu Yu Yao had said to father back then about treating the children Mother bore well. She found it utterly laughable. Mother raised her eyes, her expression carrying an innocence that didn't belong to someone her age. "My husband is an upright gentleman. He wouldn't do such a thing. Miss, you must be mistaken." Lu Xianger cried and said, "I am not mistaken. My mother beats and scolds me at every turn. She is not my real mother." Mother saw how pitiful she was, took out several silver ingots from her money pouch and handed them to her. There are indeed mothers in this world who are so cruel to their children. "You are grown up now. You can live well on your own." Lu Xianger looked at Mother, her eyes full of disbelief. "Your husband colluded with his mistress to deceive you. I clearly told you the truth, yet you don't believe it." Mother shook her head. "My husband wouldn't deceive me." Lu Xianger curved her lips into a smile. "I thought I was pitiful, but I didn't expect you to be even more pitiful." Just as Mother left, people from Lu Yu Yao's courtyard came rushing over. The leading old servant heard what Mother had said and laughed with her hands on her hips. "So what if you told her? She is just a stupid village woman. How could she figure out these things?" The old servant was laughing when she was suddenly hit in the leg by a flying stone. She fell to the ground, clutching her leg and screaming in agony. The next moment, the several people behind her also fell to the ground. Lu Xianger seized the opportunity to run into the woods. The old servant failed to catch her and could only return in a disheveled state to report back. Lu Yu Yao heard this and couldn't help but laugh. That village woman really said that. She trusts her bedside companion that much. The old woman nodded and said, "Country women are like this. They treat their husbands as their everything. Unless the master tells her himself, she won't believe it." Hearing this, Lu Yu Yao's expression became even more contemptuous. If she hadn't been lucky enough to save the empress back then, how could she have taken the position of the Song family's main wife? The son she gave birth to is useless. And as for the daughter she raised, a country bumpkin her whole life, she has just been making wedding clothes for others. Once I give birth to a son for my husband, it'll be time for her to give up the position of main wife. Recently, father has been visiting concubine Liu's courtyard often, not only because concubine Liu is pregnant, but also to take the opportunity to meet with concubine Liu's father. Concubine Liu's legitimate elder sister has been favored continuously since entering the palace, and now that she is pregnant, she has been promoted to noble consort. Concubine Liu's father has also been promoted all the way up, taking the position of Minister of War. But the Liu family's ambitions don't stop there. They're still waiting for noble consort Liu to give birth to a prince and reach the peak of power. The Liu family is eager to build up their own power, so father naturally became a target for them to win over father. Has followed Prime Minister Meng for many years, yet he is still only a fifth-rank official. Father has long been dissatisfied with this, showing no gratitude for the support he received, and quickly switched sides. Mother couldn't interfere with matters in the court. She could only take good care of me and my brother. She prepared many things for my brother and personally sent him off to join the army. Mother said to father, "Huayr isn't cut out for studying. Let him go get some experience in the world. Perhaps he can earn himself some merit and status." When father heard that my brother was joining the army, he merely reminded mother, "Tell him, once he is on the battlefield, don't be a deserter and disgrace me." Swords and blades show no mercy on the battlefield, yet father showed not the slightest concern for my brother's safety. After all, he would soon have new sons. If father hadn't thought I was Liu Yuyao's daughter, he would probably treat me just as coldly as he treats my brother. I stood outside the door listening, feeling nothing but a chill in my heart. The next day, mother and I saw my brother off outside the city gates. Mother tucked the safety amulet she had obtained from the temple into his arms. At the moment of parting, my usually carefree brother stopped me. His expression serious. "Listen to mother. Everything she has done to get where she is today has been for us." I nodded. "Don't worry, brother. I'll listen to mother, and I'll protect her too." After seeing my brother off, mother busied herself preparing my dowry. Lately, rumors had been circulating in the capital that the legitimate eldest son of Marquis Yongning Xiezi had a mistress he kept outside who had recently given birth to twins, a boy and a girl. I bribed the trusted servants around mother and kept the news from her. In the past, I would surely have run crying and making a scene in front of mother, but now I felt these matters weren't so important anymore. What mattered was that Luya would soon be entering the household. With the child in her belly and the Liu family's current status, she certainly wouldn't let mother have an easy life. So I am going to marry into the Yongning Marquis manor, become the main wife, become mother's support. My husband set off for the frontier the second day after our wedding. On the day I returned home for the first visit, I went back to the Song Manor alone. I went to mother's courtyard to have tea. The head nanny in the courtyard came in to report. Madam had the best side courtyard tidied up for concubine Liu to live in, but she either complains that the furnishings are outdated or that the food tastes bad. She is just relying on being pregnant to cause trouble all day long. Mother didn't seem angry, just asked lightly, "What does she want now?" The nanny said irritably, "She says regular bird's nest is far less effective than bloodbird's nest. She wants bloodbird's nest to nourish the baby. Whatever she wants, just go take care of it." Mother reached out to tuck the loose hair by my face behind my ear and said with a faint smile, "Good thing you married out. This Song family is utterly boring." I held mother's hand in return. "Don't worry, mother. Your daughter will definitely support you." She smiled and asked me, "Do you know what I am going to do?" I shook my head. "I don't know. But no matter what mother wants to do, your daughter will follow you." Mother looked at me with a smile and said nothing more. I hadn't been in mother's courtyard for long when a servant came to pass on a message that father had returned from court and wanted to talk to me. At this time, my father had received a promotion from Minister Liu and was already a fourth-rank official. Just as I reached the door of father's study, Liu Yao also came. Her beautiful almond eyes curved slightly as she looked at me and said, "You've never thought about it. You were born so good-looking, I doubt you were actually born from your mother." I said coldly, "My mother was also beautiful before she got married, but later she worked day and night to support the family and aged a lot. Without my mother, the Song family wouldn't be where it is today." These words, I said them for my father to hear. But my father just stood there listening, not a trace of emotion in his eyes. His eyes were only on that tearfully weeping Liu Yao. Me father said to me, "Actually, Yu Yao is your biological mother. We've kept this from you for years, all for the sake of your future." What does father mean by this? What Liu Xianger said that day was all true. You and she were swapped, which is why you got to grow up as the legitimate daughter of the Song household. I asked with a cold laugh, "How did you manage to do that?" My father said stiffly, "We did it all for your own good. If you had grown up outside, would you have gotten such a good match as the Yongning Marquis household?" I let out a cold laugh. That is not what I am asking. What I am asking is, after doing something so despicable, how can you still put on such a righteous act? As soon as I said this, both my father and Li Yuyao froze. Liu Yuyao looked at my father with reddened eyes, sobbing, "The young miss isn't close to me at all anymore, even though I am clearly her real mother." As soon as she finished speaking, she saw my mother walk out from behind the rockery by the inkstone pond. Liu Yuyao's pupils suddenly contracted. Then her expression turned contemptuous. "Everything we just said. You heard it all. I heard everything." Mother lowered her eyes, her lashes hiding the emotions within. "Is that why you've been content to remain just a mistress all these years?" Liu Yuyao wiped the tear stains from her face, and with a hand on her hair bun she smiled. "So what if you climbed up to the Prime Minister's residence and became the main wife? All these years you've just been raising my child for me. Everything you've worked so hard to build is mine." My father's face showed no guilt whatsoever. He stood on the steps looking down at my mother. "Now that the Emperor and Empress are at odds, I've already cut ties with Prime Minister Meng. You should stop associating with the Prime Minister's residence from now on." My father studied my mother's expression, yet couldn't detect the slightest hint of panic on her face. Mother slowly raised her eyes to meet his gaze, curving her lips into a smile. I knew this day would come long ago. "So back when Prime Minister Meng intended to promote you, I had Madame Meng talk him out of it. A man who would abandon his wife through hardship can never be trusted with important positions. Otherwise, with my connections to the Prime Minister's residence and your abilities, how could you have been in the officialdom for so many years and still be just a fifth-rank official?" My father, who had been so lofty and arrogant, upon hearing Mother's words, even his voice began to tremble. You pretended to be virtuous in front of me your whole life, and it was actually you. How could it be you? In your eyes, how am I virtuous? I am clearly just stupid." Mother sneered coldly. "Back then, when you couldn't bring Lady Liu through the door or give her a proper status, you came up with the idea of swapping children, wanting me to raise Lady Liu's daughter utterly absurd." My father froze, the color draining from his face. How long have you known about this?" My mother's lips curved slightly. "Before Yunxian was born, Madame Meng taught me how to bribe human traffickers to plant my spies among the servants you bought for the Liu family. My husband—" "Don't you wonder why it was such a coincidence that a big fire broke out in the concubines' quarters right after you switched the babies, and the rear courtyard was in complete chaos? I walked to Mother's side and looked at Father, his figure swaying on the steps. I've always been Mother's daughter. Father, all those years of doting were probably given to the wrong person." As the words fell, Liu Yao beside us rolled her eyes back and fainted. My father hurriedly ran down to support her, stumbled, and tumbled down the steps. What a spectacular scene that was. Me father, in complete disarray, propped himself up and pointed at Mother, shouting, "Samon, lock this vicious woman in the woodshed." After he finished shouting, he realized none of the servants around him moved. The two trusted aides who had been by his side for years were pinned to the ground by the guards. Only then did Father realize that Mother had long replaced everyone in the manor with her own people. His mother was submissive to him in everything. In his eyes, she was just a foolish woman who had never been educated. Father had never taken Mother seriously, nor had he ever been on guard against her. He looked at the mother before him with utter disbelief, as if looking at a stranger. Mother laughed and said, "I've been too good to you. I was going to confine you and Lady Liu to the study. But come, drag these two to the firewood shed." Two household guards stepped forward and seized my father by both arms. My father struggled desperately, and mother whispered something in his ear. In an instant, it was as if his soul had been drained from his body. His legs went weak, and he was dragged off to the firewood shed. I watched in a daze as mother removed her mask of weakness and transformed into this decisive and ruthless figure. However, the way she looked at me was still filled with love. "You've been out too long today. You should hurry back to the Marquise's mansion, or your mother-in-law will start having complaints about you." I knew mother had her own plans. I threw myself into her arms and asked with reddened eyes, "What does mother want to do?" "Your daughter has grown up now and can surely help you." She touched my face, but still pushed me away. "Live your own life. We'll go now." The next day, my father didn't attend court due to illness, but instead had someone deliver a handwritten letter to the palace. That confession letter also contained evidence of Minister Liu colluding with foreign enemies and secretly raising private soldiers outside the city. Upon hearing this, I was deeply shocked. Father couldn't distance himself from Minister Liu's crimes. Someone as cowardly as father, how could he have voluntarily confessed? I suddenly remembered that when I was young, mother once looked at father with admiration and asked him for one of his calligraphy copybooks, saying she wanted brother to learn to practice writing by copying it. So many years have passed, and brother's handwriting is still like chicken scratch. Yet that copybook in mother's room has been flipped through so much, the edges have curled. That handwritten confession letter was written by mother. I heard that when His Majesty read that letter, he flew into a rage and wanted to raid and confiscate the properties of both the Liu and Song families on the spot. The Empress pleaded for the Song family using the life-saving grace mother had shown her back then. His Majesty, out of respect for the Prime Minister's household, only punished father. The Song household was sealed and raided. Before father's death, only I went to see him in prison. In just a few days since I last saw him, he seemed to have aged 10 years. He stared blankly at the corner of the cell, muttering, "When did she learn to write?" I took out the food and wine from the food box, arranged the bowls and chopsticks, and said with lowered eyes, "Brother once said that back when you all still lived in that thatched hut, you would teach mother to read and write in your spare time." He closed his eyes. "That was so many years ago. I've long forgotten." "You didn't forget. It is that after you came to the capital, mother no longer existed in your eyes. You didn't care about her. So naturally, you didn't know when she learned to write." I handed the wine cup to him and continued, "You also didn't know how hard she worked managing the Song household. In all these years, she has been in charge of the household finances. There hasn't been a single error in the accounts. How could she possibly not know how to write?" Father tilted his head back and drank the wine in the cup, then looked at me and said, "I was married to Liangsin for 24 years. She simply didn't have such scheming nature. Someone else must have taught her to do this. Back then, she never swapped the child back at all. She was just plotting to drive a wedge between us father and daughter, wanting to watch me suffer and grieve with her own eyes. She is full of lies. You must not believe a word she says." Father had already started rambling incoherently. Own moment saying mother had no scheming nature. The next saying mother was plotting against him. Suddenly, as if he'd figured something out, his clouded eyes fixed on me, and he said in a trembling voice, "Yes, this was all her deceiving me. Yu Yao is pregnant after all. You must save her. Save your own little brother." I shook my head. Concubine Liu was taken away by people from the palace last night. News came from the palace today that her legitimate elder sister, noble consort Liu, has been confined to her quarters. The Liu family is completely finished. When my father heard this, the light in his eyes gradually faded away. He asked me, "I want to see your mother. Have your mother come see me." She once saved the Empress's life. If she pleads for me, she could surely save my life. She doesn't want to see you. My eyes trembled slightly as I said softly, "Mother said, you die alone and the whole family lives." She actually said such heartless words. Father's eyes reddened, and he suddenly laughed out loud. 24 years, married for 24 years, and I never understood her. That was the last time I saw father. Not just father. I seemed to have never understood mother either, but I knew that all her scheming was for me and my brother. Not long after, news came from the palace that Consort Liu had died suddenly. I had thought that even if the Liu family fell, Consort Liu, with the imperial heir in her belly, would at least be able to keep her life. On the day my husband returned triumphantly, I encountered Lu Xiong'er at the city gate, disguised and trying to leave the city. The patrolling soldiers walked toward her, their weapons and armor clanking together with crisp sounds. Lu Xiong'er couldn't help but shiver. I gave Xiaohong a look, and Xiaohong stepped forward and scolded her. "What is wrong with you, girl? I told you to go back and get something, and it took you this long to get here." Those soldiers saw she was a maid-servant of the Yongning Marquis Manor and didn't come over to question her, quickly walking away. I walked up to Lu Xiong'er and asked, "Why are you still alive?" Lu Xiong'er looked up at me. "Your mother said as long as I was willing to inform on my mother, she would have a way to let me live." "My mother." She looked at the bewilderment in my eyes and said, with a slight curl of her lips, "I really envy you having a mother who plans everything for you. Unlike me, it is no different from having no mother at all. These years, you've really had it hard. But your mother told me if my mother hadn't treated me so badly, I wouldn't have gone all out to report her in exchange for my own survival." I've heard mother say things like this before, too. She said if father hadn't been so heartless to her, she wouldn't be where she is today. I had Xiaohong give Lu Xiong'er a few banknotes and watched her leave the capital. Before leaving, Lu Xiong'er told me that mother had her report that Liu Yuyao had sent forbidden drugs into the palace to help consort Liu compete for favor. Liu Yuyao had offered consort Liu 2 drugs. One was an aphrodisiac that would make men crave it endlessly and lose their senses. The other drug was something mother had only recently discovered, for the sake of my and my brother's futures. Mother had been slipping a drug that made father infertile into his meals for years. Who would have thought, after all these years, Liu Yao would suddenly become pregnant? Father was overjoyed and invited several highly respected old physicians to help stabilize her pregnancy, all of whom confirmed the pregnancy pulse. Mother had been having people watch Liu Yuyao's courtyard, confirming she hadn't been having affairs either. What is more coincidental was that shortly after Liu Yuyao became pregnant, consort Liu Yu also became pregnant. At this time, the palace hadn't had a royal heir born in 5 years. Mother was convinced there was nothing wrong with her drug, so the problem must be Liu Yuyao that day. Before mother locked father and Liu Yuyao in the firewood shed, she told my father that he could never have children again. My father strangled Liu Yuyao tightly in the firewood shed and forced the truth out of her mouth. It turned out that Liu Yuyao had found a fake pregnancy recipe from the ghost market that could make a woman's pulse show signs of pregnancy. She had originally planned to stage an accidental miscarriage after entering the Song Manor, then frame mother for it, so she could pull mother down from her position as the main wife. I suppose consort Liu was planning to frame the empress the same way. Mother had Liu Xiong'er expose Liu Yuyao and also took the opportunity to help the empress bring down consort Liu. On the day we went to pay respects at father's grave, mother told me she had a doctor examine the aphrodisiac that Liu Yao had given father. The doctor said there were 2 potent drugs in it that were most damaging to the body. If my father hadn't been executed, he probably wouldn't have lived more than 2 years anyway. No wonder. Not long after consort Liu's sudden death, His Majesty also suddenly fell ill and passed away. With the support of all the ministers, the legitimate second prince succeeded to the throne and became the new emperor. Everyone says Prime Minister Meng masterminded everything, but few know that this woman, my mother, also had a hand in it. The border war was won, and my brother had also made a name for himself in the military camp. After my brother returned to the capital, he was soon granted a noble title and married a daughter from a prestigious family. Not long after, mother was also granted an imperial title. After my father died, the Song family not only didn't decline, but became even more prosperous than before. The day Shiazi accompanied me home, my brother pulled me aside. "Is that Shiazi still entangled with that mistress?" He whispered in my ear. "If life in the Marquis Manor isn't comfortable, just come back home. You've got your brother." I snorted, with mother around. "I am not afraid of anything." My brother sighed. You don't have to put up with him just for the child in your belly." I was about to speak when Shizi somehow appeared behind us and let out a cold laugh. "When did I ever have a mistress, brother-in-law? Is this why you punched me out of nowhere on the way back to the capital?" I was so startled I jumped, and Shizi hurriedly steadied me. I gave him a reproachful look. "Why do you walk without making a sound? What if you scare the baby in my belly?" All right. It is all my fault. I shouldn't have asked," Izzy muttered quietly. "Even if I get hit and wrongly accused, I still shouldn't ask." I realized what happened and looked at my brother. "You really hit him. How could you hit him?" "His skills are way better than mine. Didn't I fail to land a hit anyway?" My brother rolled his eyes so hard they almost disappeared. "You share the same song surname as me. So why are you siding with outsiders?" I smiled and quickly explained to my brother, "Brother, you don't know that Shizi, who kept a mistress and had twins, is the legitimate second son of Chang Yibo. It was because they share the same name that the rumors later got the wrong person." "How come? I've heard this rumor before." Shizi frowned and asked me, "After hearing such rumors, how could you still be willing to marry me?" I slightly lowered my eyes, hiding the trace of panic that flashed through them. "Because Mother said your character is very good, and I believe what Mother says." In the height of summer, lotus flowers bloomed abundantly in the pond amidst a sea of green. When Mother entered the palace, she mentioned to the Empress Dowager that the lotus flowers at home had bloomed. Tode, the Empress Dowager, secretly slipped out of the palace, and in the pavilion she played chess with Mother while admiring the lotuses. Mother's chess was taught by the Empress Dowager, so naturally Mother couldn't beat her, losing several games in a row. Just when she was feeling frustrated, Mother looked up at her pair of children not far away and suddenly smiled. The Empress Dowager fixed her gaze on her, smiling after losing at chess. "Your Majesty, there is a saying from this humble wife's hometown that says a man in middle age has 3 great fortunes: getting promoted, getting rich, and having his wife die," Mother said with a beaming smile. "Now this humble wife has been promoted, gotten rich, and become a widow. So naturally, I am happy even after losing at chess." Hearing this, the Empress Dowager also laughed. "This dowager feels the same way.